Hi there, and thank you for tuning in to the Social Circus, where every week we dive into a variety of topics covering social media, mindset, and how to run your business. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Hello there, and welcome to the Social Circus with Sarah T. Thanks for tuning in. We are now on episode 17, can you believe? And today I'm excited to be joined by a colleague and I suppose a friend, isn't it? Bethan Winn. Hi, Bethan.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Look, I'm really excited to have you on. I first came across you when I heard you speak at a women's business breakfast, and I sat there I think I was hanging off your every word because so much of what you said resonated with me as a small business owner. So if people haven't heard of you and your critical thinking genius, tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Sure. My name's Bethan Winn. I describe myself as a critical thinking facilitator, which everyone goes, what on earth does that mean? Essentially, anytime you make a decision, you're having an argument with yourself. And so critical thinking is like, it's been around for aeons, since ancient philosophy. It helps you analyze those arguments and figure out which one is best. So when you're trying to make a choice or you're trying to solve a problem and you've got a few options, that ability to analyze the information you've got and make sense of it and decide what's best for you, because that's what's important. I never say, I know what's best for you. It's all about deciding what's best for you, your business, your family, and the life and the business that you want to create for yourself. So I'm really about empowering people to make their own choices and to not just go with the flow or give in to peer pressure or comparisonitis and all this kind of stuff that we deal with as women and as women in business.
Wow, so that's so cool, and I love hearing it described like that, because it critical thinking does sound like it's something sort of like that's over there in the ether as an abstract concept, and when you just explain it like that, it makes such perfect sense. So tell me, how on earth did you get into this? Because it's a very cool, interesting space.
So my background's in teaching. I taught in a London high school many years ago, and then when we moved to Perth, I got a job at UWA teaching. The focus then was more on English, media, communications, and then they said, hey, we need someone to write a program of critical thinking for people going into master's programs, so mature students, international students going in there. And I went, yeah, sure, I can do that. And quickly discovered that I did not know very much about it at all. So that's called the Dunning, what's it? I'll get it wrong now.
Dunning-Kruger
effect, when your confidence is high, but your skill and knowledge is low. And then there's this kind of quick crash as you realize that you don't know.
I love that we both knew it was Dunning-Kruger. I've obviously just finished my master's, and that's like one of those things that they talk about, and I did put that in my dissertation, actually. I love it as a concept.
Well, I called it Diane Kruger on a different podcast. Not the right thing. It's not Diane Kruger, Dunning-Kruger.
Yes.
So I wrote that course, it's nearly 3 years ago now. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I could see all these applications for it and crossovers with stuff around decision-making, mindset, kind of life coaching stuff that I'd read in the past. Productivity and all this stuff. So I created a course for free for some friends because I'm weird. I was just like, guys, this is so cool. I want to share it with you. And some of them worked in HR and different industries. And they were like, this is great. Like, you need to get this out to more people. And it coincided actually with a breast cancer scare that I had. And I was like, oh, well, working and juggling small people and having to be in 3 places at once wasn't really, I just was not in a great place. And I thought, right, well, stuff it, I'll give it a try. And something I talk about a lot with decision making is how reversible is it. And luckily for me, it was very reversible decision. I was like, right, I'm taking a term off. All of our contracts were on a termly basis at that point. So I was like, well, I'll just take a break and see what happens. And it's sort of grown from there, really.
So you've never looked back.
Yeah.
Yay. So you followed your own critical thinking. Genius. I love that. And so I have to say, because I follow you on Insta, and you seem very in demand, and I'm not surprised because particularly as a speaker, sometimes you hear people speak and you're like, that's super complex, and you kind of walk away feeling more overwhelmed. And when I heard you speak, it was like all these little pennies dropped in the right place. It was really refreshing. And I love that when you walk around and you go, oh, I got so much value. I'm so excited to have met her. So
I'm so pleased. Thank you. That's lovely feedback. I try. I'm like, it's got to be, tell me like I'm 5,
I think I'm fangirling on you a bit hard. I better calm down. So, Bethan, when we are sole traders, particularly us as women in business, one of the biggest challenges we face is that we are it. We have to make all the decisions in a silo, and it feels super scary. And even when you, for example, if you talk to your partner or you talk to your friends, they're kind of outside of your decision bubble in a respect. And so, and I know my mum doesn't listen to this, so I can say this because I asked her at lunch today, hey, have you listened to my podcast? And she kind of looked blankly at me. Someone like my mum thinks that I walk on water and think that everything I do is brilliant. And so I say, what do you think I should do? She goes, oh, I'm sure it'll all be brilliant. I'm like, that's not really helpful. And so a lot of people on the outside, particularly in our personal life, love and support us, but actually don't give much support in terms of decision making. So making decisions is super scary, isn't it?
It can be, and I hear you, and it's the irony is I help other people with their decisions, and I still struggle, and I think that's how talk for women in business. Of course I connect, I'm human as well. It's just having a few sort of tools or ideas of what works for you in your back pocket, so when you have those moments you're like, oh my gosh, I just don't know, decision fatigue kicks in, you're like, I don't even care anymore, anything, just make it go away. Can I pay you, can you make this choice for me?
That whole decision fatigue concept is something that I feel is I do a lot of coaching, obviously, with people, and I feel like a lot of people are sitting at that really close to overwhelm. And so that decision fatigue is something that's very real in terms of, I don't know what to do because I'm so tired of making decisions. And talk to me about how we can manage that better and do that better for ourselves.
All right. I think the first thing that I would say is that we as individuals need to take some ownership over that, because a lot of that decision fatigue is coming because we get so much information thrown at us all day, every day. If you've got a smartphone in your pocket, then it's going to be going off at you, and if you're it.
Yes.
So carving out that time. So for me personally, I don't switch my phone. I literally don't switch my phone on until about 8:30, 9 o'clock once the kids are away, because I don't want to start my day feeling like there's just this barrage of information thrown at me. I try and start the day getting clear on my priorities, what I want to do that day. I do exercise. I've recently got back into meditation, highly recommend it. I know
so good.
Yeah, and I've been there going, oh, it's too hard, I don't feel like doing it, but it really does make a difference.
So you're up and away and doing what we all do, is that kind of mummy role that we I've got teenagers, so I'm past keeping them alive, and I just have to, I'm like a sergeant major, just order them around in the morning. So it's so good. And so what you're saying is, and I probably need to adopt this, is don't look at your phone until you're actually ready to start your day, which for you is 8:30, which would be quite similar for myself, and that feels groundbreaking.
It really makes a difference, because it means you start your day, because a lot of people, and I'm actually amazed how often I hear this, if you use your phone as your alarm clock, I'm addicted to this damn thing. Like, if it was there and it was by my bed, I would look at it first thing in the morning and I would look at it last thing at night. And when I was on holiday recently, I didn't have my alarm clock, and I found myself going, right, I'm going to bed, and then I'd look at my phone, and then I'd brush my teeth, look at my phone, and I'd sit down on the bed and look at my phone. Whereas when I'm at home, in my own home, I've got the alarm clock, and I have an app called Freedom, which blocks all social media around about 9:15. And it's that pre-commitment to yourself and taking that ownership and going, okay, of course I go into habitual mode of like, just open my favorite social media or whatever, and it blocks it. I can't open it. And then I go, oh yeah, sensible Bethan from several weeks ago decided that no good happens on social media after 9:15 p.m.
Oh, I love that. I have my phone set to, I've got an Apple, and I have quiet time, do not disturb, and that goes on at 9 and comes off at 6 a.m. Which is probably still a bit early, but I have to say I jump on my phone because I run Facebook ads and I always want to see how many sales I've had overnight. I like to get validated that I'm brilliant.
Yeah. And I feel for you, right? I love social media for the connection and the community, but checking, you know, you post something on there and you're like, oh, I'll just check if there's comments, or I'll just check how many views it's got. I'll just check. And just that action of checking, it disrupts your thinking so much. And so, you know, if you're mastering your thoughts and you're able to go, your brain's going, oh, I just want to check. And then you go, I don't have to check right now. If I check in another 10 minutes, that's fine. So yeah, just generally looking at our day and going, right, where can I put some space in there for my brain to breathe? And whether you top and tail it, or whether you say, I don't know, over lunch, you put it away for a bit, or, you know, if you've got client meetings. I love client meetings, or I love delivering training because it's a great excuse to just, you know.
Oh, I know. They get your undivided attention. It's so joyous, isn't it?
So, you know, sometimes, you know, if you're on, you know, on your laptop a lot or on your phone a lot or whatever doing work, then, and it's kind of a home working day, then just building in a meeting with yourself, you know, where you just go, right, I'm going to move to a different space, because often where we're physically located is very connected to the habits that we do there. So perhaps it's, you know, getting a big sheet of paper or whiteboard and moving somewhere else and deliberately focusing on something different, because I love the phrase, I wish I knew where I got it from, trying to get work done on an internet-enabled device. It's a bit like brushing your teeth and eating Oreos at the same time.
Oh my goodness, that's so genius.
Right? I should look up where I stole that from. It's not mine, but it's so true when you're trying to focus.
Yeah.
So again,
it's really interesting, because that's one of our biggest challenges, is being self-employed, is having that discipline. And I know I have to say I'm pretty good at it, and ironically, despite working in social media, I think I'd spend less time on social media than anyone I know or any of my clients, because I don't enjoy it, because it's work. And so every time I go on there, I'm like, oh, it's work. And so I'm very rarely tempted to scroll, because I'm like, ugh, I just feel like I have to comment or interact. And I've even outsourced a lot of the tasks to my VA, so that I don't even get tempted to do things like checking, because it is so distracting and it's such a rabbit hole. And it does make your brain even more overwhelmed, which is coming back to that issue of decision fatigue. It makes it even more complicated. So I want to dive back in, Bethan, because I know that you mentioned this when we were chatting before we started recording, in terms of how we make decisions in our business. And I mentioned that often we're doing it on our own, and we're relying on our own, all of the little voices in our head, of which there are many. Some of them tell me I'm a genius, the other ones tell me I'm an idiot. And so I have all these wonderful it depends which one's winning that day. So talk to me. I love the fact that one of the comments you just made was, how reversible is a decision? I never actually thought about that.
This is something people describe it in different ways, but essentially, if you can think about how reversible is this and how consequential is this, because our brain likes to engage with the kind of more superficial decisions. So you might spend, you know, 6 hours choosing what color mugs you might get for your kitchen, but you might not spend 6 hours, I don't know, deciding on
like the colors for your logo. Oh my god, that's a classic, right? What thing do we do with our logo? And you go, actually, between this and that, there's very little difference to Joe Public. But it's big to us, right? Whereas, you know, the real big important stuff is, I don't know, call that major client? It's very easy to put that off. You're like, oh, it feels a bit hard and uncomfortable, and so I'll stick with my comfort zone. So when you're looking at decisions, you know, the big life and death stuff is your truly consequential, irreversible. You know, it is, do I have another baby? What cancer treatment do I have? And you know, those are the real important stuff. So when we're stressing small things, looking at the bigger picture and going, okay, you know, what does this mean for me, my family, my health, those sorts of things, that's really important to bear in mind. And then if you're trying to make a choice
perhaps, I don't know, taking on a subcontractor, for example. That's quite a typical thing, like I don't know, being a VA or something like that. If you can break it down and go, all right, what's the way I call it nibble rather than scoffing, right? It's a big choice. So you're like, okay, I don't want to take on someone full-time, permanent contract. Sit down, maybe say I can take them on, try them out on one little job, see how we go. If they do well, then you may get bigger. And so you build the trust over time. And it's a way for you to move forward rather than stay in that analysis paralysis of like, oh, maybe I should go with this person. Oh, but if I do that, then what about this person? So much of what we do now is it can be done in a way that's reversible, that there isn't that kind of heaviness to it. And then it makes it easier to move forward. And that's what you want to be doing always. It's like taking that next small action so you feel like you're making progress towards whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So
that's such amazing advice. And I have to say, because I work with my husband and he works in online social butterfly behind the scenes. And one of the decisions we made at the beginning of this year was that we were hoping that he wouldn't have to do any more client website projects, that he could just work on the projects in our business, like sales pages and things like that. So I said to him, our goal was that by the end of this year, he would not be doing any client-based work and he would just be doing our work. And so, and I said to him, oh, what we really need is 3 months to hit this income goal. And then I know that we can do that. And so we've hit that goal over the last 3 months. And I've sort of, which is exciting, but then I have this moment, I have to now follow through, and I'm quite panicked about it because you just kind of think, what if it suddenly drops up our income? And actually, this is ridiculous. I haven't actually thought about, well, it's super easy to reverse it because you can just say to people, oh, we are doing websites again, we were just having a wee break. But you kind of think it's I often think we make these decisions like they're absolute final, like you can't ever change your mind. And I think there's a fair bit of ego that goes into that, isn't there?
Oh, totally. It's like ego is the enemy. We just need to swallow our pride occasionally and go, right, I'm just going to think of it as an experiment, right? And if you say, oh, I'm just going to try an idea, get curious with it, see what the outcome is, it's a much more fun and comfortable way to approach something rather than, oh my gosh, this is the be all and end all, because we never know what's coming next. We never know what's around the corner. So a better way for me to phrase that is just to say, for the rest of this year, we're going to take a break from client website work and then see how that feels as we move forward. And it feels less permanent then, doesn't it? You kind of think, oh, scary, but good. And you don't need to announce these things like a big fanfare. Oh, we're no longer doing websites. You can just, when someone asks, you go, oh yeah, we're pausing that service for now, or whatever it might be. So there's lots of different ways to approach it. And likewise, when you're trialing a new product idea, like I've had 2 people approach me this week about a particular offering, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's something in this. I'm not going to add it to my CV. I'm not going to put it all over my website, but I can quietly work with those people and try it out, see if it works, if I like doing it. And then if it works, I might add it in the future, but I'm not going to say anything about what it is. Otherwise I'll be like,
But the interesting thing about that is one of the things that I do love about being an entrepreneur is it's you get to run your business how you want to. But and I find this is quite a common trait with us entrepreneurs, is we love bright, shiny things.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And you kind of get asked all the time. So I've just finished a course that was like an online course, but I did a live round it was 6 weeks that I delivered it. And at the end, people were like, oh, are you going to be offering a membership on this? And I felt like I was under this immense pressure to do that. And I kind of stepped away, and my husband, luckily, he's the voice of reason. He's like, so you're actually fully booked. How are you going to make that work? And I was like, oh, he's so right. And it's really tempting because again, your ego, it's very flattering when people say that to you. And you're like, oh yes, I'm so great, I should totally do that. And then if you're like me, I say yes to way too many things, and then you're suddenly under a lot of pressure to deliver that. And how do we tame our ego? It's actually a good question.
That is a good
question for you, isn't it?
I think, like you were saying there, getting curious with it and just sitting with it and going, oh, okay, I am tempted here to do whatever. I'd say in terms of making a decision in that kind of scenario, there's a bit of sitting with your values And
Yes.
if you know your values, like, and it's, you know, it's something that like corporates all sort of go, oh yeah, we've got these company values or whatever. But I think it's useful to either have your own business values or your personal values, and use that as a bit of a North Star. So
Yes.
for example, one of mine is sustainability. And I use that in two different ways. I'm very passionate about environmental sustainability and
Yes.
you know, offset the carbon for my business and all that kind of stuff, but also sustainability from a personal and kind of health perspective.
Yes.
And I'm like, if I've had a week, like I had a fortnight where I was just booked every single day, all day, with a, you know, the odd evening and breakfast thing as well. And I was like, this sucks. Can't be as, you know, I can't bring the energy that I would normally bring if I'm exhausted. And so
yes.
That's something that I bear in mind when I'm looking at my schedule, is going, okay, is that sustainable? So for you, you know, you might say, okay, well, I'm fully booked. At that point, you might look at it and say, okay, do my members, do my people really want this? Is there a way that I can make it happen? Or do I value, I don't know, my, you know, relaxation, private time,
yes.
whatever, other things in life, family, obviously, health,
yes.
all of that stuff. And you're right, there is that kind of pressure on, the kind of hustle where you
yes.
go, oh, okay, I can grow it, I could, but just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
And that's where that, you know, checking in with yourself is so important.
I really love that you talked about that sustainability, because I've got a client that I'm working with at the moment, and because of COVID, she's in the training space the same as me, and because of COVID, there's like, we're all in hot demand because so many people are dropping like flies and can't train. And she said to me she's doing 5 consecutive days of full days training, which she finds completely exhausting. And she said, but how do you say no? And I'm like, well, you can just say no. But the reality of it is it's not sustainable to do that. And I've never actually thought about it in that way of like, is this sustainable? And having been sick myself recently with COVID and trying to juggle and realizing that I didn't have enough buffer in my schedule to allow movement and to allow wiggle room. And I've kind of really committed to, like, on the 1st of July, when I'm caught up with all my backlog of clients, that this is not how it's going to go moving forward, and to be to really, like you say, come back to those North Star of, why am I doing this? And I know what my values are very centered around my family. That's why I started my business.
Yeah, so many
I've been in it for 11 years. It's all about my family. And then you suddenly find my boys walking from school and I'm not there, or I'm online till 6 o'clock, and that's not what the idea was. And it is so important to have some values clear in your mind, because I think that often if we don't, we will say yes to everything, and we will lose our direction very, very quickly. So I just want to talk really brief, because I'm mindful of time, but I'm excited. It's so interesting. If we've got to make a decision in our business, and I love your idea of how reversible it is, what's a couple of easy strategies that we could use to help with that decision making?
Okay, well, just touching on what you were bringing up there.
Yes.
If you know what the vision is, like, so you might be like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed and I'm too busy. Think about what you don't want. So you go, right, I don't like what I've got right now. What do I want? And you've probably heard before, you need a stronger yes in order to say no. Yes. So if you know, like, you've booked in, I don't know, picking your kids up from school, it's very easy to say no to something that clashes with that. Whereas when it's, you know, your kids are older and you're like, oh yeah, they're fine, then it's very easy to just say yes, say yes, say yes. So think about, what do you want to include in your schedule, in your life, in your business? And then it's easier to get rid of the stuff that doesn't work with that. Another quick tip, if people are struggling between a sort of A and B option, what's called false dichotomy. Sometimes you're kind of like, do I go with this or go with that? Try flipping a coin. And then it's not about where the coin lands, it's how you feel about the way the coin lands.
Oh, yes.
And they've used this in our breakfast session, but it's really interesting when you go, oh no, quick, flip it again. Or the same if you've got a magic 8-ball, those classic toys, where you're like, okay, what does it say? Oh, I don't like that. And if you find yourself going, oh no, I don't like that, then that's your gut feel. It's like your gut response is quicker than your logical, rational brain at realizing what it is you truly want. Or, you know, I've been in a situation where I had a cancellation and I was just like, oh, thank God, I really didn't want to do that. And then I was like, oh, why did I say yes? It's because I consulted someone else. And they were like, oh, you should totally do it. And I was like, no, I shouldn't have said yes. So I was really pleased about that. And then that tells you more about, you know, how do I feel about working with that client? Getting curious about, okay, why did I feel that relief? What was going on? So there's certain things where you kind of know really what you want. It's useful to just take a step away from everything, everybody, and just sit with that and go, okay, how do I feel about this? And one more quick tip is in 10 years time, how will you feel about that? You know, like if you missed I don't know, the kids assembly in order to deliver to this client that you're not even enjoying, how do you feel about that? Oh, the kids remember. Ouch. Yes. And it's tricky because you can't always, you know, put family first. As much as we say family first, you can't 100% of the time. But in each moment, each decision, if you can weigh up, okay, what's important right now? You know, sometimes we do have to just say yes to the client at a difficult time or whatever. But when the options are there, and you're able to say no because you want to say yes to family, health, whatever it might be, then just be aware of that and what the priorities are each day, each moment. You know, it's a constant juggle.
It really is. Oh my gosh.
Answer.
I have to say thank you so much. Gosh, you've so generously shared your wisdom with my listeners, of which I'm immensely grateful. And I am mindful that we could probably talk all day.
Yeah, sorry, Sarah. I love it.
Oh no, please don't apologize. It's so enjoyable because I think that one of the hardest things about being like a solopreneur is that pressure on you to make all those decisions and to feel like your how reversible is it? It's genius. Like I know that you probably didn't invent that as a concept.
Oh, everything's derivative, right?
Yes, but it's so obvious, isn't it? And yet you know, we get caught in this moment of going, oh my gosh, if I do this, it's like, is it the end of the world? And it's like you say, you can check in on that really easily. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on here and sharing so generously. For all of my listeners, please check the show notes on how you can connect with Bethan, because she has some amazing courses that we as business owners can participate in to help us with our critical thinking, which is super cool. And she also shares really great content on her socials as well. So thank you so much for joining, Bethan. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And thank you to all my listeners, and I'll catch you the same time next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to The Social Circus. As your host, Sarah Thompson, I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time hanging out with me. I would be so grateful if you could spare an extra moment to go and leave me a review on your favourite podcasting platform. And if you even felt more excited, you could share my podcast with your friends who you think would get great value from it. Thanks so much again for tuning in.